Previously on Heart and Minds Aloud.
Interest is an emotion.
Of course.
So is boredom.
Yeah.
You know, and I can think, so there's this much of our waking experience, we are just transitioning through emotional states.
Exactly. From one to the other.
Yeah, it's good to be an expert on those things, rather than just bounce along, try and get some insights into what these things are.
And understand where you are at any point, right? Would you call it some sort of a spectrum? Is there an emotional spectrum then? Welcome back. We're picking up where we left off with Dr. Thomas. And today he basically reminds us that we have tear ducts for a reason. He also talks about the importance of unpacking the big emotions like love into separate elements like compassion, patience, and generosity, reminding us that it's possible to show love in so many different ways. Enjoy the episode. Another thing that's interesting, regardless of whatever culture you're in, I think you also touched on this slightly before. It's also really important to understand what you're feeling and to communicate it to someone. So I'm looking at this from the perspective of a psychologist. So if someone came to you, it's imperative that they know, well, maybe not imperative, but it's helpful that they know what they're feeling and then, try to communicate it to you. I realize I pick up that usually people can't really explain what they're feeling. So what can you say about, emotional literacy? And I don't know if there's any way to encourage that or to help that. If, for example, if somebody wanted to, get into this space where they're able to understand what they're feeling better, differentiate one from the other, and then maybe in that way communicate it to somebody else.
Yeah, I think it's an incredibly important question, and it's a really complex question, but I think at the heart of that, this idea of knowing what you feel, knowing what this experience is right now, even perhaps if you don't have a word for it, but often we do if we look, or we can make one up. But yeah, that idea of knowing how you actually feel, or at least noticing how you feel, noticing that, I can notice that this is here. And I think that is a huge component of self-awareness or self-knowledge, even if you like, and it's a key to well-being, it's a key to happiness, it's a key to growth, it's a key to choice. If you're not aware of what you're feeling, you don't have a choice.
Of course.
So I think there's huge benefits in being, it sounds cliche, but people say being in touch with your emotions.
Feelings,
that doesn't mean you've got to cry at every instant. There's nothing wrong with that, but it doesn't necessarily mean that.
It goes beyond that.
Yeah, and I think connected to that also is this idea is that often we feel something and we don't want to feel it. And so we strangle it, or we think we've strangled it in the, what would you call it, in the cradle. So I can feel I can feel sadness, or I can feel boredom. I can hear it knocking at the door.
Coming on,
and I blow it away before it even, takes. So I never really get to experience it in all of its glory. Do you know what I mean? I don't get to know it well, because as soon as I get a whiff of it, I choke it and it's gone if I can. And I think it's often those behaviours, that emotional suppression, that emotional avoidance, experiential avoidance, that is a gateway to suffering, a gateway to psychopathology.
Exactly.
To use different language. Yeah, there's experiential avoidance, and very often it's emotional experience that we're avoiding. Open the door, let the emotions come in, get to know them. Yeah, get to know them in all their ugliness and all their beauty. Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
And you'll know yourself better.
Exactly. Then you can recognize them easier the next time that they come to you.
And without acting on them necessarily. Because once you act on them, then you're no longer observing them with an open mind and curiosity. What does my envy feel like? I'll be honest, I noticed envy myself today in me. I was watching the keynote speaker, and he was really rather good. And I kind of found envy creeping upon me, envy tinged with a bit of sadness because he was so good, and I thought, oh, why aren't I the keynote speaker? Kind of, not full blown, but,
I know.
but noticing it is, noticing it then gives me a choice.
Of course.
Yeah, and then understanding that, okay, that is just from dissatisfaction with who you are. Yeah, be grateful for who you are. Be grateful for what you've got and, what you can do, and, be useful rather than try to be the best.
Exactly.
Without all of that rationalization, that's maybe an afterthought now, but it's enough to notice it. It's enough to notice it, and without noticing it, who knows what happens? My whole day maybe is ruined. Maybe I go home now and have a fight with my wife. I find something to displace that, negative, and I've owned it. This is me, Dr. Justin Thomas.
Exactly.
Very envious, small little man, envious of the keynote speaker. We are all quite ridiculous. And get to know yourself. You'll become aware of your own ridiculousness.
And accept your own ridiculousness.
There you go.
But if I do say so, see, I've been in your talk, and I say that with a lot of confidence. You could very easily be the keynote speaker. You could very easily be the keynote speaker, and you would ace it.
See, now I feel positive. I'm trying to hold on to that. I'm trying to keep hold of that positivity.
So just in addition to what you just said, so there's a saying in my culture, that I'm from Ghana. There's a saying, so I'll say it the way we say it's a bema insu. That literally means men don't cry.
Oh.
Yeah, but I'm sure that people have a problem with it because nobody really believes that men shouldn't cry.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
unless it's our football match in the World Cup, and then it's okay. You shed those tears, fella. It's okay. We accept that. but a funeral, no.
No.
Football match, okay. You get a pass for that.
You need to keep your head up as high as you can, and then you comfort everybody else. But that's not very helpful, I guess, because men are just as human, and they get. I don't know what your take is on this.
Yeah, I mean, I must admit, it's not nice. I feel, because we know it's if there's a behaviour that's socially unacceptable, no amount of kind of just saying it is okay is going to make it okay overnight. Like society and culture slowly change and evolve, and maybe one day it'll be okay, and maybe there's something in kind of showing a little bit of restraint on the old waterworks occasionally, but again, not to the detriment of your own health. But sometimes it just can't be helped. I think it's we have tear ducts for a reason. Males and females both have tear ducts, and we all choke up at certain things. But it's definitely a cultural construct as to how many tears men can shed and in what contexts. And similarly for women, there's a gender role stereotype there that it's okay. One of my students cries because I'm a bit harsh. That's so that's acceptable and to even encouraged perhaps. With men it's not. I joke with my students, like, if I started to cry in class now, what would you do? And they just kind of laugh. If my name was Justine and I started to cry, what would you do?
They would rush to you and comfort you. Absolutely.
I'd be positively reinforced for my waterworks. It's a complex one because it interfaces with gender roles, socialization, so what is acceptable in society, and it's hard to be that open. But I think there's occasions where I mean, one is in my mind right now. I went to, and I'm not one of those dads that goes to the kids shows in the school. And my wife convinced me to go, and I went to this show, and it was all the little kids. And my daughter was included, and they were singing these songs, and the story was about the Titanic and the sinking of the Titanic. And it just opened, and I'm glad the lights were off, do you know what I mean? I was wet. Even my wife was slightly embarrassed.
Like, what is going on? When you decide to come, this is...
But it felt cathartic, the lights were off, and I kind of had a good clean up before the lights came on. But genuinely, there are times, and I think it is, tears are healing, they're cathartic. There's a statement in the Quran about tears, about hearts, that it talks about when some of them are harsh and hard and dead, but others are hard, but even they will sometimes open up like a spring. The spring water will gush out from underneath them.
Yeah.
But I think there is something therapeutic, there's something healing about being able to, follow that sadness, allow that sadness to express itself, even if that's in the form of, water wax, tears, and I think the World Cup is a good example of that. And you feel, when people lose a game they've trained competitive. It's a metaphor for loss, isn't it? We've worked really hard for this. We might never get this chance again. And our dreams have been shattered and taken away from us. And human beings cry when that happens.
Yeah. Okay. And just about our last question is, what with regards to emotion, what's one very powerful, one very significant thing that you noticed in collectivist cultures that is a bit different from, say, your culture?
It's really hard to do that, it really is. But when I get those insights, I feel really grateful and deeply enriched. Because the other sometimes is very invisible, you just don't get it. And I'm struggling to think of a concrete example. But if anything, one of the things I've noticed is the idea of caring for each other. And even that can be in a passive way. So a kind of doing nothing. So like an operational example would be like my students very often, like they'll do presentations and the unwritten rule is, I'll say, any questions? Is there any questions for Matha? And the whole class will be quiet. And it's kind of an unwritten rule, like, no, we don't want to be questioned. And everyone knows that, and it's respected, and there's a kind of I call it a conspiracy of silence. But it comes from a good place. I think it comes from this, I guess there's a supportive harmony type thing that I think is in my society is sometimes it's there, but maybe not as pronounced as it might be in a collectivist society. That supportive, harmonious vibe, if I wanted a better word, which is not hard to see sometimes. I'm not sure that's the best example I can give of it, but I've definitely experienced it.
Yes, that explains. That's it creates an image, and you're able to relate to. Okay. And this is just a personal one, Dr. Thomas. In your opinion, what's the most powerful emotion? And why would you pick this one? It's very subjective, I know. So you're going to cut to a song.
After I say this, I'm going to say love. And then you're going to cut to the song like, the power of love. It's got to be, but love, you've got to unpack love. Do you know what I mean? Because love means all kinds of different things. If I was going to use like Arabic words, then I would say wadud, rahma. You see these manifestations of love, this concern for the other, this compassion, this respect, this seeing other people, and ennobling of other people. So generosity, is generosity an emotion? I don't know. I'm not sure. I might be confabulating there. There's a thin line, isn't there? There's generous acts.
Exactly.
But is that, I think generosity is maybe motivated.
Brings a lot of good feeling.
Rahmah, compassion. All of that stuff that drives us. I think the stuff that drives us to take care of ourselves and to take care of each other.
Others as well.
Because emotions, I like the English here, the motion to move. Move me to what? Move me to kindness. Move me to be helpful. Move me to concern and care about others. So the emotions that move me in that direction, for me, are the go-to guys. They're the good emotions for me. They're the positive, powerful emotions. If we have more of those emotions in our world, we'll have a beautiful world.
Dr. Justin Thomas, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure having you as a guest.
Thank you. I'm so happy to have been your guest.
It's been so insightful listening to Dr. Thomas highlight how noticing and paying attention to our emotions puts us in a better place to manage them. My big takeaway from this conversation is Men do cry, men and women both. I've lost track of the number of times I've seen and heard people being discouraged from crying, whether or not they were crying for a good reason. Which leads me to the question, are there unreasonable reasons why we cry? And if not, why does it make us so uncomfortable to see? Is it possible to teach ourselves to be more comfortable with other people's discomfort and, not make whatever experience they are having about ourselves and allow them to go through it so that catharsis can happen for them? My name is Baba Dadzi, and you've been listening to Hearts and Minds Aloud. If you haven't already, subscribe, rate, and like this podcast. We're on Instagram and Facebook as Hearts and Minds Aloud. Thank you for listening. The conversation is getting bigger, so be here next week.